Welcome back to Game of Fangs and Thrones. My name's Hannah, and this was my best reading month yet. I know I said that for March, but April topped that. I read a total of 31 books. Unfortunately, I did have 3 DNFs, so we're just going to quickly run through those. I have Modern Fairy Tales by Holly Black. The book I tried to read from this one was Tithe. Unfortunately, I just couldn't get into it. I can't tell you what this is about, but I think I'm just not gelling with Holly Black's writing, because I have also I did finish The Cruel Prince, but it has gone. So unfortunately, this is also a DNF. I just couldn't connect to the main character. I don't know if it was a case of I finished one book and I was tired, but it just wasn't for me. The same goes for Two Dark Reigns. This isn't the right book. But either way, I think the book I actually attempted was Five Dark Fates. But either way, I couldn't get into the second one of those. I think I slugged through Three Dark Fates. Whatever the first book was, I slugged through it, and it just wasn't for me. I tried. Oh, it was Two Dark Reigns. Two Dark Reigns, I think. I did try to read was it One Dark Throne? Either way, I tried to read the second book and I just couldn't get into it. I didn't find that I cared for any of the characters. I did give it a decent try, it just wasn't for me. I think I've left it too long to read those, and my tastes have since changed. Now, the third book I DNF'd was a Kindle book, and that was the Truths and Triumphs of Grace Atherton. I can't remember who wrote it. I think it was a free book on Kindle, and I just couldn't connect with the character. From what I gather of what I did manage to read, the Grace character is 30-something years old and is having an affair. I don't like cheating, and it's not something I particularly want to read about, but I have nothing with me other than my Kindle, and that was the only book on my Kindle that I hadn't read. But it wasn't for me, so unfortunately that's a DNF. But the rest of the books, these aren't in any order, by the way, but the rest of the books were okay. We had one 3-star. I've mentioned the DNFs, and we had a couple of 4s and 5s in this month as well. So we're going to talk about them in a slightly different order that makes sense to my brain, at least. So first of all, we're going to do standalones, because I have this stack here. Some of these books do fulfill prompts for G's Magical Readathon. I did complete that, and I have a vlog somewhere on my channel for that. I go into depth about my thoughts as I'm reading the books then, and I tell you what fits what prompt. But this is just the general wrap up of the month. So I have my standalones, and we are going to run through them. So I have The Revelry by Catherine Weber. This was a 3-star. It was unsettling, it was enjoyable, but it just didn't scare me personally. It did leave me feeling a little bit unsettled. This follows Bitsy and Amy. Now Bitsy has grown up in this town. Amy came to it as a young girl. And in this town there are things called revelries which happen every year, and they are very mysterious. They're the town's open secret. Everybody knows about these revelries, but unless you attend one, you don't know what actually happens. And Amy and Bitsy end up sneaking into a revelry that's not theirs, but they can't tell anybody, and Bitsy can't remember what happened, other than the fact that she has a scar on her thumb and Amy has the matching scar, and whatever good happens to Amy, bad things happen to Bitsy. So I did enjoy this. It was 3 stars. I probably will keep it, maybe reread it around spooky season. Then we have The Alibi Girl by CJ Scoose. This one was 4 stars. It was good. I liked where it went. We follow... She has 10,000 names in this. Right, on the back she's introduced as Joanne, but that's not her real name. The flat she lives in isn't hers, the cats aren't hers, and her hair isn't really hers. So it does tell you when you start it, that we are reading from a character called Ellis's perspective. Now Ellis is Joanne, and Ellis/Joanne is hiding. She's in witness protection because of something that happened in her childhood, and then she goes missing. Now this, I wouldn't say it was a thriller so much as a mystery, and because we know that Ellis lies, it is a little bit of an unreliable narrator, which can be really fun to read from. This was, and I probably will reread it. I gave it 4 stars. We have The X-Hex by Erin Sterling. This is just, what did I put on my notes? Oh, a cozy magic romance. Again, this was a 4 star? I can't read my own writing yet. This was a 4 star, and I read it in just over a day. But this is doing the rounds on BookTube, or it did a couple of months ago. But basically it follows Vivian, who is a witch, and she curses her ex with vodka, bubble baths, and a Bed Bath and Beyond candle. Now that was 9 years ago, and because her ex is a Penhallow, a descendant of the town's founders, every so often one of these Penhallow men have to come back to the town Graves Glen to recharge the ley lines, and obviously Reese is cursed, so all sorts of things go wrong. But it is so cute and sweet, and it just gives me Murder, She Wrote vibes for some reason. I think it's the small town setting. And then we have The Near Witch by V.E. Schwab, including the short story. So I just included this as one read. I couldn't think of the word there. And I gave this 4 star. It was solid, I think this was her debut, and then Darker Shade of Magic was picked up, and this was re-released on the back of the success that she's now having. But this follows Lexi, who lives in a bit of a closed off remote village where there are no strangers. The Near Witch is just a story, and if the wind calls at night, to ignore it. So that's all she knows. But however, she finds a boy, an actual stranger, in the dark outside her house. So at least one of those things isn't true, and then kids go missing. So it's the story of Lexi, this boy, his history, and is the Near Witch a story, or is it real? So 4 stars. Very classic, I'm going to say it's classic Schwab from what else I've read of her. We have another romance. We have The Love Hypothesis by Ali Hazelwood. This follows Olive, who is a PhD student, she's in her 3rd year, and Adam, who is one of the professors. Now, Adam isn't Olive's professor, so there isn't a teacher-student relationship there. But Olive is trying to convince her best friend that she's not interested in the same person that her friend is, and decides to make up a boyfriend to sell the rumour. She kisses the first boy she sees, and that happens to be Adam. Now, she is sunshine, he is grumpy, and I give it 4 stars. It was cute. We have a 3-star, unfortunately. This is We Are Blood and Thunder by Kezia Lupo. We follow Lena, who is marked. She has a birthmark on her face, and in this world that marks her as a cryptling. She has to forsake her ancestors to take care of all of the ancestors. And then we follow Constance, who is the daughter of a duke in a foresty type village that has been walled off because of a virus, and it's in quarantine. I'm struggling to remember this one. I gave it 3 stars, and if it wasn't for the magical readathon, I probably would have DNF'd this one. So it's going straight into the whole pile, the unwhole box. And then we have Strange Creatures by Phoebe North, and this was a bizarre read. I've got no idea how I ended up categorising this with my blanket. But we follow Annie, who is very close to her older brother, and they don't exactly have a very stable home life, so they make up a game called Gumley. Gumley is the woods at the back of the house, and they escape to Gumley when they need that break from reality. However, in middle school to high school, James, the brother, he's pulling away from Annie. He's going more to real world, where she tends to retreat further into Gumley, until one day he disappears completely, and Annie is the only person that doesn't give up hope. But it is more her story of growing up than a story about a missing brother. I gave this... I gave it 4. It was weird but addictive. Then I gave The Nightmare Before Christmas by Tim Burton 5 stars. Need I tell you anything else? This is my favourite movie. Now I have the book to go with it, and it was everything. So, that was all the standalones. I have some first in series and some continuations of series. So we'll do the first in series first. Oh, that makes sense, right? Anyway, so I have A Touch of Darkness by Scarlett St. Clair. This is a modern reimagining of Persephone and Hades. Persephone is struggling with her magic. She moves to New Athens disguised as a mortal journalist, but then she sits down in a nightclub with a hypnotic stranger. That stranger turns out to be none other than Hades himself, and they enter into a bargain. But I think everybody knows how the Persephone and Hades myth ends, so this is a very good read. I gave it 5 stars. And then we have middle grade. We have House of Secrets by Chris Columbus and Ned Bazzini. This follows the Walker kids, Brendan, Cordelia and Nell, as they move into an old abandoned, seemingly perfect house called Christoph House, but obviously this is middle grade. Nothing is ever as it seems. They end up annoying some witch who curses them, and they have to break the curse. But it is a bit of time travel, a bit of portal travel, there's this book that controls everything, but it does say at the back, House of Secrets is the first book in a major new series. It's going to be epic, and this was a really fun time with a very epic story for middle grade. And I gave this 4 stars. Enjoyable and inventive was my note for that one. Then we have the Highland Adventures on Trains, Book 1, The Highland Falcon Thief by M.G. Leonard and Sam Sedgman. I give this a 5 star. It's Murder on the Orient Express for kids, with no actual murder. It is a jewel thief. So I don't know where I got the Murder on the Orient Express vibe from, and it's in Scotland. But this was really fun. It follows Harrison and his uncle Nat, who are enjoying the final journey of the Highland Falcon. There's a prince and a princess involved, and I gave this 5 stars. Maybe someone who reads mysteries a lot more would have been able to see the outcome, the culprit, but I didn't, and I thought it made sense. Then we have Iron Widow by Jiran Jai, and this was 5 stars. The ending of this is what has clinched it for me. It was a very enjoyable read following, why can I never remember names, following Zishan, who, in this world, you have things called chrysalises, which seem to be organic metal companions, a bit like Pacific Rim. And they take 2 people to pilot again, like Pacific Rim, but this is a future retelling of Empress Wu, who I believe was China's first and only female empress, and Zishan takes up that mantle. She is called an Iron Widow because she killed her male counterpart pilot. I think with this one, it is probably best going into it not knowing much, especially the end, and I gave this 5 stars in case you couldn't tell. Now this one is a bit of it is technically a first in the series, but it's also a second book. But this is The Dark Vault by V. Schwab. It contains the archived and the unbound. And imagine a place where the dead rest on shelves like books. This was very spooky. I gave them both 5 stars. But we follow Mackenzie, who is a keeper. It's her job to hunt down and return these memories, these histories that have escaped from the library. And some of these histories are violent. And it is a very melancholy read. It's very grief heavy, but it is very well done. So 5 stars for both of those. Then we get on to the sequels or continuations. First one is The Wicked and the Divine Imperial Phase Part 2 by Gillen, McKelvey, Wilson and Cowles. This is the 6th book in the series. I believe this is a completed series, but every 90 years 12 gods return as young people. They are loved, they are hated, in 2 years they are all dead. It's happening now, and it's happening again. I can't really tell you too much more about this, but I do love the art. Each character seems to have their own art style, and there's so much representation for different minorities in here, and it got a 4.5. It's getting good. I can't wait to see how this one ends. And then we have Lock and Key Volume 2, Head Games by Joe Hill and Gabrielle Rodriguez. 4 stars, followed continuation. It is very dark. the kids in this are, well, this is the comic that the Netflix series was based off, so you probably know what it's about. But basically, the Lock kids find magic keys that do various things. They have to protect these keys from Dodge, who Bodhi, the youngest child, accidentally let out of the well house. And that got a 4-star. Yeah. Then I have God's Grave by J. Christoph. This got 5 stars. It is the sequel to Nevernight, in which we follow Mia Covey, who trains at the Red Church to become an assassin, wanting revenge on the people who killed her family. This is the continuation of that, dealing with the fallout of the first book, while seeing Mia progress in that revenge story. This got 5 stars, mainly because of the end. I need to read Dark Dawn to find out what is going on, and hopefully I do get to Dark Dawn this month. It is on the TBR. We have Heartstopper Volume 2 by Alice Oseman. This is just cute. It follows Nick and Charlie as they come to terms with their sexualities. And I gave that one 4 stars. Dark Dawn, hang on, God's Grave got 5 stars. Then we have The Gilded Cage by Lynette Noni, the sequel to Prison Healing, which I think was one of my favourite books when I read it. And this is the sequel. So Kiva Meriden is a survivor. In the first book, she survives in Zalanov, which is a deadly prison, by saving everybody. She is brought the rebel queen, and it is her job to save the rebel queen, to make her fit enough to stand these trials, these elemental trials. But there is also a plague happening in the prison, so not only does Kiva have to figure out how to keep this queen alive, she has to figure out how to keep the rest of the prison alive. But then Kiva decides that the queen is too weak to take on the trials, so she takes her place. If Kiva passes the trials, she gets her freedom. This is the fallout and the sequel, and oh my god, did it hit the spot. Lynette Noni is friends with Sarah J. Maas in real life, I believe, and you can see a lot of Maas's influence in Noni's writing, but it does stand out as its own thing, and it is brilliant. Highly recommend that series, and I believe the 3rd book is being released later in the year. We have the 2nd Bridgerton book, which is the Viscount Who Love Me by Julia Quinn. Admittedly, objectively, this book isn't good, but it's a fun little romp, and I gave it 4 stars. I just like reading these because they are fluff. There's no real plot, they are romance, we know what's going to happen, but there is a trope for everybody in these books, I think. This one seems to be more, it's not cheating as such, but it is unrequited love, mutual pining for about 300 pages. And I did really enjoy it. But objectively, it's not great. There are better written books. But we have Down Among the Sticks and Bones and Beneath the Sugar Sky by Shannon Maguire. This is the prequel to Every Heart a Doorway, following Jack and Jill and what led to the events of Every Heart a Doorway. And I gave this one 4 stars. And I gave this one 4 stars. This one is an actual portal world where a character from the Every Heart a Doorway ends up playing a major part in this despite being not actually present. I don't know how to describe this one without spoiling anything. This one is easier. This one is technically a standalone prequel. You could read this without reading Eleanor West. Every Heart Door even. But yeah. Oh, bless me. 4 stars for both of these. We are getting to the end, I promise. Then we have a Court of Winds and Ruin and a Court of Frost and Starlight, both by Sarah J. Maas. This one is the 3rd in the series and the end of one arc, but I know we have started a new arc following a different character. Nessa? Do we follow Nessa? I think we follow Nessa in a Court of Silver Flames, which I might read, I don't know yet. But this book, I give 4 stars. I did really enjoy it when I read it. I thought it was a nice wrap up, and I am sorry if you can hear people screaming. And then we went to the novella, which I gave a 3.5. It was a cute little fluff piece, a day in the life of Hera kind of thing, and how she deals with the aftermath of this. And I really liked it. Then I read Dragon Rising by Katie and Kevin Sang. This got a 4 stars. It's a solid continuation of what we already know, as well as setting up a new story arc, which I am so excited to read the next book, which does have a name. I just can't remember what it is off the top of my head. Dragon Destiny, and this is out, hopefully, in September this year. But if you aren't aware, this is a middle grade series following dragons. It follows Billy Chan, who is sent away to a summer camp in China to learn more about his Chinese heritage. He stumbles across an actual mountain called Dragon Mountain with 4 warrior dragons inside, as well as making new friends, and in the way of middle grade, they go on a massive adventure, and I love it. This one didn't quite hit the same as the first ones, but not every book will, and this had a hard job of being almost the first in a series. It had to stick with what we already knew while introducing new things, and I've been filming for half an hour, and then 3 books left. We have Broken Homes by Ben Aronovich. This is the 3rd or the 4th in the Peter Grant series. Things are starting to heat up now. I can't talk about this one too long either, with it being a sequel. Why do I read so many sequels? But this got 4 stars. It is a paranormal murder mystery in London. It seems to be more of a cosy, I would say. It doesn't tend to focus on the crime as much as the characters and how they interact. I suppose with it being a long series, I think there's like 8 books out now. We can get the character development and character interaction. So 4 stars for that one. Then we have Bright We Burn by Kirsten White. This is the finale to the And I Darken trilogy. I think it's called the Conquerors trilogy, which is a gender-bent retelling, reimagining of Vlad the Impaler. We follow Vlada, who takes on that role. There's her brother Radu, who is just so cute and sweet, and Mehmed, who is the Sultan. And for Bright We Burn, 4 stars. I liked the ending, I really did. I thought the ending was perfect. And I probably will look at picking up more Kirsten White books. The last book in this wrap-up is Queen of Gilded Horns by Amanda Joy. This is the sequel to A River of Royal Blood, and I gave this one 4 stars. It was solid and it was enjoyable. I think what kept this from being a 5-star was the introduction of another viewpoint that didn't really do much, I don't think. And I think I left it too long before picking this one up. It did give it enough of a recap so that I wasn't completely lost, but I couldn't quite remember who everyone was and why things were happening that were happening. So I now have to find a space for them on these shelves. That's going to be fun. But if you made it this far, thank you. Leave me a comment down below what you were reading, what you've read this month. If you've read any of these, let me know. And I'll see you in the next one. So give this video a like if you like it, and hit that subscribe button if you want to see this, talk about these, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!